Splatoon 3 is without a doubt the biggest and best Splatoon game yet, and has solidified itself as one of Nintendo's biggest IPs. I love this game, and with no more updates coming sadly, why don't we look back at the last 2 amazing years? So sit back, relax, and let's look at everything that this game had to offer. I remember when Splatoon 3 was teased in a Nintendo Direct over 3 years ago. It feels like yesterday, to be honest. Besides the hype for this game from me and all other Splatoon fans, there were also some complaints and worries for this game, which admittedly were not that unreasonable at that time. 2 Splatoon games on the same console, the game wouldn't be different enough from its predecessor, and it just serves as a cash grab from Nintendo. But I will address these complaints later in the video, so stick around. But now let's actually talk about the game. As usual, the online multiplayer is the main focus of the Splatoon games, and it is not different here. Turf War was the same classic game mode as always, and there are no changes to this mode, so there's no need to talk about that. Sadly, also not much change in the rank modes. It's still the same 4 modes we have since Splatoon 2. There was so much potential here for new and fun game modes. I appreciate the little tweaks and changes they made, like having one rank throughout all game modes, making it personally much more enjoyable, and also the addition of Anarchy series and rank up games, making the matches feel much more serious and impactful. Or just the very little changes, like adding checkpoints to Rainmaker, making it feel much more tactical and not that easy to win by an early team wipe. The map design in Splatoon 3 is a topic which I've seen a lot of discussions around, especially at the beginning of the game. I've heard complaints that the maps are too restricting and too simple, which is admittedly true for a few, but I also think that over the past 2 years, through reworks and updates, the maps have gotten a lot better and the map pool is in a good state. Some of the newer maps are really enjoyable, like Shapeship Cargo, Robo Ramen or even Crableg. I really enjoy playing on those. There are still some maps that are kinda meh, and it's kinda sad that the developers removed some of the verticality of the Splatoon 1 maps, but the maps got so much better through Splatoon 3's lifespan. I would also be interested to hear your opinion on these maps, so let me know in the comments. And by the way, if you enjoy Nintendo and just gaming content in general, why don't you subscribe? I'm trying to reach 1000 subs. Thank you. When looking at the weapons, this is where this game really shines. It has a huge variety of old and new weapons, a new sub and a huge amount of specials, from old to new. But let's go over the main weapons first. 2 completely new weapon classes were added in this game, being the Stringers and Splatanas. The Splatanas are a great addition to the series, and I personally love them, they are a lot of fun to play. While the regular Splatana and the Splatana Stamper are great options, I personally prefer the Decavitator, just because of how fun it is to dash around and one-hit opponents. Well, my opinion on the Stringers on the other hand, how the heck are people hitting their shots? And if I see one more well string, I can't take it anymore. I just suck using all variants of the Stringers. It doesn't matter if it's the regular Cry Stringer, the Reflux or the well string. This weapon class is just not made for me, but I still appreciate them being in the game, since it's such a cool idea. In addition to these completely new weapons, every other class also received a new weapon, with many of them being great. I for example love the Dowser Dualies, with their incredible range and different playstyle depending on which mode you're currently in. Then, there are also additions which I personally don't use that much, but I still appreciate them being in the game, like the Splattershot Nova, the Big Swig, with their insane paint and supportive capabilities but low killing power, the Dreadringer, S-Blast and Recycled Brella, having their own little gimmicks and differences to the regular weapons, and the heavy added Splatling, with its insane fire rate but really slow charging time. One thing I noticed with these new weapons is that they are really balanced. So when one of its traits is really good, another one is made a bit worse. Some of them trade killing power for more paint, like the Splattershot Nova, while the S-Blast for example has a huge hitbox while jumping, but its standing hitbox is below average. Well, there was one more new weapon, but I don't want to talk about it. I'm looking at you, Sniper. As for the sub-weapons, there was only one added in Splatoon 3, the Angle Shooter. I remember playing this sub on the Splattershot Pro when the game first came out, and I thought it was really useful. Looking back, this is a retrospective after all. While the idea of the sub is really cool, bouncing off walls, leaving a trace behind which marks enemies, I think it deserves some buffs in the future. Hitting someone directly is incredibly hard, and it does like almost no damage. Either make the reveal longer, or let the lines which are left behind do a little bit of damage, giving it a bit more presence. But enough talking about the angle shooter, let's look back at the new special weapons that were added. I remember watching the Splatoon 3 trailers and thinking to myself, oh cool, the Inkzuka is back. Is that a crab tank? I think many will agree that Splatoon 3 has some of the best and most fun special weapons out of the franchise. I'm not talking about the balancing, since I'm not a pro myself, but looking back, out of all the 3 Splatoon games, these special have brought me the most enjoyment. Having some of the most fun specials returning from the previous games, like the Inkjet and Booyah Bomb, which are also fan favorites, while reworked old specials like the Triple Ink Strike and Triple Splashdown, the Trizooka or the Kraken make the selection of this game really fun. And I haven't even talked about the completely new specials. Zipcaster alone is the most fun special in the entire series. It lets you traverse the map really fast, making for some crazy plays and highlights. The Crab Tank, as the name suggests, is a literal tank which the enemies cannot ignore due to its range, fire rate and exploding shots. Using it just feels really powerful and fun. While there are some specials which are less flashy and fast paced, like the Big Bubbler or Inkvac, they still fit into this game really well and change how the game is played. All of this, paired with the fact that no special is really overpowering the others, makes these specials the greatest in the series yet. After receiving Octo expansion in Splatoon 2, I had some high expectations for Splatoon 3's story mode. The story mode started out fairly simple, just like Splatoon 1's and 2's story modes. You go from one level to the next, and that's just fine. It was in Alterna where things really started to pick up. You could choose your own level order, or even in what order you did some of the worlds. It took some inspiration from Octo Expansion with many unique and creative levels. I have to admit that I still preferred Octo Expansion just because it was more challenging. But what I do have to say is that I love Alterna. I love the setting of it feels so abandoned and lonely, and it just has an eerie vibe to it. I also liked how the story and lore were included into this game. After beating each level, you get bits of information of what happened in the past. Besides Octo Expansion, this is by far the best single player through all 3 games. 1.5 years after Splatoon 3's release date, the story expansion Side Order came out. It was something fresh and exciting which you haven't seen before in the Splatoon franchise. It was a roguelike game mode. I'm not gonna go into too much detail, since I've only beaten it once, but it is very fun, I have to admit. Being able to choose your own difficulty throughout levels and choosing power-ups. You really notice that you are getting stronger and stronger throughout the game, which I found really enjoyable, and overall it was a great DLC. And now that Splatoon 3's live service has ended, I can confidently say, even if there was some missed potential and opportunities, this was by far the most enjoyable game out of the series yet.